Hello, I am back with you again for another book review video, and this time it's a double whammy one. Two books. I've been away for a few days, so I had lots of time to read on the coach long journey. So yeah, it's a double one. One of the books I haven't got with me as it had reserved, so I had to return it. And the other one I have got with me, one was non-fiction and one was fiction this time. So I'll tell you about the one that I took back already first, which was the non-fiction one, which was called The Transgender Issue, An Argument for Justice by Sean Fay. So it's a non-fiction book that's actually written by a transgender woman, which goes into depth of she talks about the issues that transgenders people have to deal with to try and bring a bit more empathy and understanding, because obviously it's a big issue, especially in feminism and stuff like that, which I personally don't understand. I think we should just accept all people as they are. It was a very good and informative book, so if it's something that you want to understand a bit better, I would highly recommend that book, because she talks about all the sort of issues and things that come up as a transgender person, and she does also talk about race and class and all those kind of other things, as well as talking about the issues within feminism, the issues within race, and also the inequality between classes when it comes to transgender people, and even how there is some arguments within the LGBTQ community regarding transgender people as well. And it's really written very well, and it's very concise, and yeah, I thought it was a good informative read, so I highly recommend that one if you want to learn a little bit more about transgender people and kind of understand their side of things. And the other one, unfortunately, it's a fiction book, but unfortunately I did not like this one. If you don't want to hear any spoilers about this one, I would probably turn off, because I probably am going to be a bit spoilery with this one, because it's just too easy to. But it was called Conversation with Friends by Sally Rooney, which I think was just one I was recommended via Goodreads. It's written quite easy to read. I accidentally borrowed the large print version, so that's why it's so massive, but it was fine. Yeah, it was a fiction, and it's really easy to read, but I found the characters in it, like the main character that you were following, really not very likeable, and in fact pretty much none of the characters were particularly likeable in it, so I couldn't really root for her through this book. I just couldn't understand her. She just was frustrating. But anyway, the story itself, it's about these two women that are friends, that do kind of poetry together, and they go round performing poetry together, but they are also ex-lovers. But then somehow they meet this other couple who are married, and the woman is a reporter who wants to do an article about these two poetry women, and she's married to a guy called Nick, who's a actor, and they start kind of getting involved with these two. They start meeting regularly regarding the interview, but they sort of get more intertwined with them as it goes on. And the main character, one of the women that reads poetry, called Frances, she kind of gets a crush on the husband of this Melissa, and they end up having this affair. But I find it a really strange, really strange affair. Well, I suppose not strange, but what I did find strange about it is that it was that at one point suddenly she's like, oh yeah, I love him and all this, but yet there was nothing there apart from that they met and had sex, and that was literally it as far as I could tell. Apparently he wasn't showing her any emotion or anything, and he wasn't really reflecting a personality as such, because all they were doing is literally just meeting and having sex, and that was about it. So I couldn't quite understand what it was, why she was so like, oh yeah, I'm in love with this guy and all this. And eventually the wife does find out about it, and Nick, the husband in question, kind of says, well, I want to stay married to you, but I also want to see this Frances. And for some reason, even though she's really peed off about it, she accepts that. But then eventually him and Frances do split up, because Frances seems to realise that she's still in love with her friend Bobby, the one that she does the poetry with, and they get back together. But, and this is where I get even more spoilery, so apologies if you do want to read this, or if you do want to read it, don't, just definitely skip this bit of the video, stop it now. But so she gets back together with Bobby, but they have this thing about, oh, we're not in a relationship, even though they are. And then the husband that she was having the affair with accidentally calls her one day instead of his wife, and they chat on the phone, and she's like, oh, so excited that he's phoned for some weird reason, although she's decided she's in love with this ex-girlfriend. And they end up meeting again. Yeah, and that was basically the story. So yeah, the characters were not very likeable. The story was a bit stupid, really. I couldn't really I mean, it was, easy to read, but I couldn't really understand this affair that she was having, or why she ended up getting back together with him at the end either. It was all really weird, and it wasn't really much of a story, to be honest. It was just, yeah, so I don't recommend this one at all. Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. It was a bit of a waste of time. Really, the characters are not even, you can't even root for the characters. I couldn't, it was from the point of view of Frances, the one having the affair, but I couldn't even understand why she was having the affair. It wasn't like I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of understand why she's going for that, or even why the husband was having an affair with her, because she wasn't very likeable. And I didn't feel like I wanted to root for her at all. She just seemed to moan all the time, and he was just boring, and the other characters weren't that great either. So yeah, just leave this one out. And that's it. This review, it's funny how you always have more to say about a rubbish book, isn't it? But yeah, so I don't recommend Conversation with Friends by Sally Rooney, but I do recommend The Transgender Issue by Sean Fay. So I'm going to leave it at that, and hopefully the next fiction book I read I will actually like, because the last few I have not. So yeah, I will be back again very soon, I'm sure. Leave comments down below if there's any of those books that you've read yourself and what you think, or if there's anything else that you're reading that you'd like to tell me about. Love to hear about it, and I'll see you very, very soon.